Friends, thank you for taking the time to be here. Imagine, if you will, a vast frozen expanse in the northernmost reaches of Canada, where ice and snow dominate the horizon, and beneath the permafrost lies a secret that could redefine the future of global energy. Picture a discovery so profound that it could render oil, coal, and natural gas, once the pillars of modern civilization, nearly irrelevant within the span of a single generation. Now imagine that this discovery has quietly emerged from the most remote research stations in the Canadian Arctic, representing not just a new energy source, but a complete upheaval of the economic and geopolitical order that has governed our world for more than a century. For over 100 years, the world's power dynamics have revolved around petroleum. The economic rise of the United States, the immense wealth of the Middle East, and countless international conflicts were all influenced in some way by oil. Entire nations have waged wars, built empires, and crafted foreign policies with black liquid at the center of their calculations. Governments have relied on the assumption that fossil fuels would remain the backbone of global energy systems indefinitely. That assumption is now on the brink of collapse. The reason? A resource so powerful, so abundant in Canadian territory, and so strategically consequential that it marks the greatest energy paradigm shift in human history. This resource is helium-3, a rare isotope with the potential to unlock clean, nearly limitless energy. And recent geological surveys have revealed that Canada holds the largest deposits ever identified on Earth. These deposits are vast enough to supply human civilization for millennia, while simultaneously rendering traditional energy infrastructures, oil wells, coal mines, pipelines, obsolete relics of a bygone era. Today, we'll explore why this discovery is poised to end the dominance of oil, how it positions Canada to become the preeminent energy superpower of the 21st century, and why nations such as Saudi Arabia, Russia, and the United States are quietly rethinking their future energy strategies. Before diving deeper, if you find this discussion about Canada's emerging role in global energy transformation compelling, please like and subscribe. Your support allows us to continue uncovering developments overlooked by mainstream media, developments that will fundamentally alter the global economy. To understand why helium-3 is so revolutionary, we must first grasp what makes it uniquely valuable. Helium-3 is the essential fuel for nuclear fusion, the same process that powers the sun. Unlike nuclear fission, which creates long-lasting radioactive waste and carries catastrophic risks, fusion is clean, safe, and virtually limitless. It produces no greenhouse gases, no hazardous byproducts, and cannot undergo uncontrollable reactions. A mere kilogram of helium-3 has an energy potential equivalent to roughly 20 million kilograms of coal or 15 million liters of gasoline. To put it in perspective, filling a single pickup truck with helium-3 could theoretically power the entire United States for a year. The extraordinary energy density of helium-3 is matched by its scarcity. Although it is created by the solar wind, the Earth's magnetic field and atmosphere prevent most of it from reaching the surface. The helium-3 that does exist on our planet has been locked away in geological formations for millions of years, making it nearly impossible to harvest in quantities sufficient for commercial energy production. This rarity explains why nuclear fusion, despite decades of experimentation and billions of dollars invested, has remained largely theoretical. While laboratory fusion reactions have been achieved, the lack of helium-3 fuel has prevented the construction of commercial-scale fusion plants capable of competing with existing fossil fuel infrastructure. The recent Canadian discoveries change everything. Surveys across the Mackenzie Delta, the Beaufort Sea, and parts of the Arctic archipelago have uncovered helium-3 concentrations far exceeding any previously known deposits worldwide. These formations are believed to be the product of unique geological events from millions of years ago, when cosmic radiation was more intense and Earth's magnetic field offered less protection. Canadian research teams, particularly from the University of Alberta, in collaboration with Natural Resources Canada, have verified through core sampling that these deposits contain enough helium-3 to supply humanity with energy for the next 10,000 years across all sectors: oil, gas, coal, hydro, nuclear, and renewables combined. This is not merely a new source of energy. It is essentially an unlimited supply of clean power capable of sustaining human civilization for millennia. The technology required to extract helium-3, while complex, is within Canada's current engineering capabilities. The isotope is encased in crystalline structures within ancient volcanic rock preserved by permafrost. Techniques akin to deep geothermal drilling, combined with cryogenic separation processes, allow for the extraction of helium-3 in significant quantities. Canadian companies, working alongside government research institutions, have already developed prototype extraction systems capable of harvesting kilograms of helium-3 from test sites in the Northwest Territories. The energy return on investment is staggering. Even under less than ideal extraction conditions, the net energy yield is extraordinarily high, often exceeding a factor of 1,000. Economically, the implications are unprecedented. Oil currently trades at $80–100 per barrel, with global daily consumption hovering around 100 million barrels and generating trillions annually. Helium-3, in comparison, would be valued at tens of millions per kilogram under fusion energy economics, surpassing the market value of any known resource. The Canadian deposits alone, totaling millions of tons, represent theoretical energy and economic potential greater than the combined GDP of all nations on Earth. Yet the true value is not in the raw material, but in the energy services it enables. Fusion power plants fueled by helium-3 could generate electricity at fractions of a cent per kilowatt hour, drastically reducing costs relative to both fossil fuels and current renewables. Such cheap, abundant energy would transform transportation, making electric vehicles, ships, and potentially even aircraft virtually self-sustaining. Industries constrained by energy costs would flourish. Deserts could be irrigated and cultivated, oceans desalinated, carbon dioxide captured and removed from the atmosphere, and manufacturing scaled to unprecedented levels. The strategic and geopolitical implications are equally profound. The past century of global power has been structured around oil access. Nations like Saudi Arabia, Russia, and Venezuela have used petroleum to wield influence far beyond what their populations or economies alone would justify. The United States leveraged oil access to become a superpower, establishing military presence and political influence across the Middle East. Helium-3, controlled by Canada, could shift the center of global energy entirely northward. Oil-dependent economies would collapse. Saudi Arabia's government revenue, heavily reliant on oil exports, would vanish. Russia's energy leverage over Europe would evaporate. The countries that have long dominated global energy politics would suddenly find themselves on the sidelines, while Canada assumes a position of unparalleled influence. Already, the responses from established energy powers are telling. Saudi officials have approached Canadian diplomats for partnerships. Russian energy firms have attempted to invest in Canadian Arctic development projects. U.S. energy corporations are lobbying their government for continued access to Canadian helium-3. Even financial markets are reacting. Investment banks are adjusting long-term energy forecasts toward fusion technologies. Petroleum engineering programs are seeing declining enrollment as students anticipate the obsolescence of traditional energy careers. Oil company valuations now reflect the looming threat of stranded assets as the reality of helium-3 becomes increasingly tangible. As we look toward the horizon, it becomes clear that the implications of helium-3 fusion extend far beyond energy markets or national power. This discovery has the potential to reshape virtually every aspect of human civilization. When energy becomes nearly free, the fundamental constraints that have shaped societies for centuries, costs, scarcity, and environmental limits, begin to vanish. Cities could operate with virtually limitless electricity. Transportation could become ubiquitous and near instantaneous. Industries previously constrained by energy costs could expand on unprecedented scales. Regions currently considered inhospitable for agriculture or settlement could be transformed, and humanity could finally consider projects previously thought impossible due to energy limitations, from large-scale space exploration to the creation of self-sustaining habitats in harsh environments. The possibilities for industry are staggering. Manufacturing could become far more efficient, with processes previously deemed uneconomical, now feasible on a massive scale. Fusion-powered desalination plants could provide clean water to arid regions, transforming deserts into fertile farmland. Fusion energy could drive advanced recycling and material recovery, reducing humanity's environmental footprint to near zero. Carbon dioxide could be captured and reused as a raw material, creating synthetic fuels, plastics, and chemicals without extracting additional fossil resources. This is not science fiction. It is a tangible scenario enabled by Canadian helium-3 reserves and the technologies being developed to harness them. Healthcare and biotechnology could also see dramatic transformations. Fusion-powered laboratories could run energy-intensive medical equipment, supercomputing systems for genomic research, and advanced diagnostic devices without concern for power limitations. Hospitals could operate in remote or energy-poor regions without interruption. Cold chain storage for vaccines and critical medicines could be maintained globally at near zero cost. Large-scale production of laboratory-grown food or synthetic proteins could finally reach cost points competitive with traditional agriculture, reshaping global food systems and dramatically improving food security. The implications for human development are equally profound. Education, transportation, and communication systems could expand rapidly without the cost constraints imposed by traditional energy. Remote regions, once isolated due to infrastructure limitations, could connect seamlessly to global networks. Cities could implement cutting-edge technologies for heating, cooling, lighting, and transportation, all powered by clean, abundant fusion energy. Canadian communities in the Arctic and beyond could become hubs of innovation, serving as models for sustainable, high-tech living, while benefiting from local economic development, employment, and educational opportunities. Globally, the transformation will force a rethinking of geopolitics. Nations that have long relied on energy imports will gain a level of independence previously unimaginable. Countries that once wielded power through fossil fuel exports will lose influence as their resources become irrelevant. International alliances, trade relationships, and security considerations will all shift toward those with access to fusion energy infrastructure and Canadian partnership. Canada, positioned at the center of this energy revolution, will wield influence not only in economics and technology, but in environmental stewardship, military balance, and global development. The strategic foresight embedded in Canada's approach ensures that these benefits are broadly shared. Unlike historical resource booms, which often enriched only corporations or foreign investors, the Canadian plan emphasizes integration with domestic industries, research institutions, and local communities. Indigenous groups and residents in remote territories are positioned as partners, ensuring that the economic and technological advantages flow throughout society. Intellectual property, technical expertise, and industrial capacity are being built to maintain Canadian leadership for decades to come. This approach mitigates the risk of resource exploitation without local benefit and creates a model for equitable, sustainable technological development. The speed at which this transformation could occur is remarkable. Once commercial fusion plants prove operational and reliable, the transition away from oil and other fossil fuels will accelerate exponentially. Investment in oil infrastructure will halt immediately. Financial markets will reclassify fossil fuel assets as stranded, and governments will be forced to pivot policy towards supporting fusion adoption. Regulatory frameworks, subsidies, and carbon pricing could accelerate the timeline, ensuring that fossil fuels become not only economically irrelevant, but politically and socially untenable. The result will be a rapid restructuring of the global economy, with Canada at the helm of a new energy era. This shift will also affect military and security dynamics. Fusion-powered vehicles, ships, and aircraft could operate indefinitely without refueling, creating a new standard for global military capabilities. Countries without access to helium-3 and fusion technology will find themselves unable to match the capabilities of those that do, reinforcing the strategic advantage Canada enjoys as the principal supplier of the world's only viable fusion fuel. Access to this energy source will become a determinant of international influence, national security, and technological power. From an environmental perspective, the benefits cannot be overstated. Fusion energy produces no carbon emissions, no air pollution, and no long-term radioactive waste. The widespread adoption of Canadian helium-3 fusion could realistically reverse the trajectory of climate change, replacing fossil fuel energy entirely with clean, virtually unlimited power. This shift would also enable ambitious projects like global carbon capture and storage at unprecedented scales, turning the fight against climate change from mitigation to reversal. The Canadian Arctic, once frozen and largely economically marginalized, could become the centerpiece of humanity's environmental recovery efforts while simultaneously providing economic prosperity and technological innovation. The implications for innovation and technological progress extend beyond energy. The infrastructure, material science, and industrial capabilities developed for helium-3 extraction and fusion power will have applications across sectors, from aerospace to computing, from advanced materials to quantum technologies. Canadian cities could become laboratories for innovation, demonstrating how abundant energy transforms urban planning, transportation, manufacturing, and environmental management. Other nations may attempt to replicate this success, but the integrated approach Canada is pursuing ensures that technology, knowledge, and supply chains remain under domestic control, maintaining strategic advantage for decades. The Canadian Arctic will no longer be a remote frontier. It will be the world's most valuable territory. Communities built around helium-3 extraction and fusion technology will become global hubs of high-tech industry, scientific research, and innovation. This transformation will attract talent, investment, and partnerships from around the world, creating localized centers of economic growth that ripple across society. Education, infrastructure, and employment in these regions will surge, creating long-term benefits for generations of Canadians. For the rest of the world, the message is clear: adapt to the fusion economy or risk becoming obsolete. Countries that cling to outdated oil-based systems will find themselves increasingly isolated, economically vulnerable, and politically marginalized. Nations that embrace the transition, forge partnerships with Canada, and invest in complementary technologies will prosper, gaining access to nearly limitless clean energy, advanced industrial capabilities, and strategic advantages across military, environmental, and technological domains. Friends, we are witnessing the dawn of a new era. The era of oil is ending, and the era of fusion is beginning. Canada, through its unprecedented helium-3 reserves, stands poised to redefine global energy, economics, and geopolitical influence. The Arctic, long considered a frozen wasteland, holds the key to unlimited clean energy. The communities that develop around this resource will become centers of innovation, prosperity, and technological leadership. Nations that recognize this shift early will gain enormous advantage, those that do not risk obsolescence. The transformation will be swift, profound, and irreversible. Every economic calculation will change as energy approaches near zero cost. Manufacturing, transportation, agriculture, and exploration will expand into previously impossible scales. Countries positioned alongside Canada will thrive, while fossil fuel-dependent nations will struggle to adapt. The frozen northern territories once overlooked will become the beating heart of human civilization's next chapter. The mathematics are simple. When energy is nearly free, the potential for growth, innovation, and development becomes virtually limitless. Thank you for joining me as we explore this monumental shift. If you found this discussion insightful, please like the video and subscribe to continue following the developments that will shape the future of global energy, technology, and economic power. Have you noticed increased research activity, energy infrastructure development, or government investment in Arctic regions? Share your observations in the comments below. Your insights help illustrate the unfolding transformation that will determine which nations lead humanity into the fusion age. Together, we are witnessing the moment when the world as we know it begins to change forever.